I'm Philip Daniels.
I'm Joe Cardoza.
I'm Jeff Barnes.
This is The Perspective.
And this is The Perspective.
Welcome to The Perspective.
And good evening, football fans. Welcome to an all-new episode of The Perspective. Of course, I'm one of your hosts, Joe Cardoza. Joined as always at my guys, Mr. Philip Daniels and Jeff Barnes. Gentlemen, after a Wildcard weekend that spilled into Monday, how we doing tonight?
I'm feeling great. 6-0 on my picks.
I'm doing great. Couldn't have a...
I knew it wasn't going to take you a long time, Jeff, to mention that you were 6-0 in your picks. But like we said, definitely a great weekend. Kind of start with you, Jeff. Just want to know what your thoughts are from the games overall.
Well, I'm going to tell you this much. I had to get that 6-0 out there because I may never ever be 6-0 on my picks ever again. So I had to gloat on that for the one time in my life. I know for sure I got a perfect weekend, but I think overall it was, if you had a clear head about the matchups. Some of them left you a little nervous. That Jacksonville almost messed everything up, but they come back from 27 down and pull it off. I think if you have a clear head, you have a pretty good idea who these teams are. We saw who Los Angeles was with their blown lead. We saw who Tampa was with the massacre last night in the Giants. We saw who Minnesota was because if you pick the Giants and you believe they can go in there and win, they did just that. So I think if you had a good feel for these teams, you knew exactly the outcome would be.
What are your takes from the wild card weekend there, Philip? Oh, we might have lost Phil. Well, like you said, there you go. Go ahead, Philip.
Yeah, guys, I'm actually freezing up on my end. Go ahead. I'm gonna join the show in a second. I'm gonna do something different. So I'll join the show in a second. Go ahead. Go without me.
I like a man that's determined to be heard. I like that a lot. No, I think that for me, obviously, the main topic of conversation was going to be like you talked about, Jeff, that Jacksonville game was just incredible. The comeback, perseverance. And like I've been talking about a lot in the last couple of shows, every time I watch Jacksonville play, it just shows me more and more what a horrible decision that Urban Meyer hire was. I know I should let it go, but I can't let it go because it's pretty much the same roster, minus a couple of receivers that have been signed in the offseason. But just shows you that coaches matters. Really impressed with that. Last week on the show, we talked about Brock Purdy and how he's going to have to really show out for the 49ers, and can the rookie handle it? I mean, he looked like a 15-year veteran out there. He looked the way we thought Tom Brady would look last night. Just calm, cool, collected, making plays. That defense for the 49ers showed up. So I was impressed with that. And then I think it's been well documented, my feelings of the Minnesota Vikings. So I can say I was not shocked by that Giants victory. And I think the Giants took it back to the old school, Jeff, just old school NFC East football, ground and pound. Saquon Barkley, a guy that people want to know, what kind of Saquon will we get when he comes back off that torn ACL? If the regular season didn't show you what kind of player he was, that playoff game definitely did. So I think there was a lot of things to be excited about.
Yeah, and if you look at that Giants team, the way they're playing, everybody's talking about the performance of Daniel Jones. Well, when you have Saquon Barkley perform the way he's playing, when you have that defense playing the way they're playing right now, it allows Daniel Jones to play a lot more freer, a lot more mistake-free because he's not forcing stuff. He's allowed to check down. He's allowed to go through his reads comfortably. Because he's getting quality protection. Teams are worried about Saquon not only running the football, but catching the football out of the backfield. Yeah. He's throwing Daniel Jones could always be a good thrower of the football. That was never a question to him coming out of Duke. The question was, how does he perform under pressure? The amount of turnovers, can he limit the turnovers? Because he was a turnover machine at Duke. So there were a lot of things with him that when he came to pros, still saw going on, the lack of pocket awareness. So many things that he did over the years. You didn't see that this year. And I think it all comes back to the point where Saquon Barkley has been Saquon Barkley.
And also, like you talked about, we saw last night, I just think that, man, if you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, you got to feel good. That defense was on attack mode from the jump. You and I and Phil talked all last night throughout the game. No surprise, Tampa. I mean, when you're to have the record that you have, especially you who covers the Bucs extensively, you saw that team, and it was exciting to have Jansen back. But when you tear pretty much every ligament in your knee, you miss the entire season. Besides the jolt of energy that you might initially give your team, how effective was he really going to be, and was he going to be a game-changing factor? I just think from the jump, Tampa just didn't have a chance.
Yeah. When they talked about it last week, I said the one thing that scared me was how Dallas was playing leading up to that game. A few weeks ago on Bucs Weekly, I said when it looked like Tampa was coming back to the point where they were going to win the South, I said most likely they're going to face Dallas or Philadelphia in that first round, and they didn't match up with either one of them teams. They weren't scoring enough defensively. They were having their peaks and valleys performance-wise. Well, last night was just that. They came out with a lot of fire defensively. They were still struggling on offense. But when Dallas figured out that defense and was able to attack them and break them down, they had no answer defensively, and their offense couldn't get going. And that was the worst case scenario for that team. They talked about it. They were a bad matchup, and they proved it last night. If Dallas was playing their best football, there was no way Tampa was going to keep up.
And if you remember, let's go back, Jeff, to that season that Dak was having before that gruesome leg injury. He was one of the top guys in the MVP conversation. Misses the rest of the season, comes back, kind of so-so. Now this season, we see also up and down. I think his best game as a professional last night, in my opinion, maybe I'm wrong. I don't watch a ton of Cowboys football. Don't ask me why, maybe because I'm a Washington fan. But he just looked outstanding yesterday. I think Kellen Moore finally stopped overthinking things and made the right calls at the right time. And yes, I know that the 49ers are the hottest thing walking. They're my pick to go to the Super Bowl still, San Francisco. But if the 49ers think this is going to be an easy W and a pushover, yes, once again on the road, battle tested, I think this Dallas team showed people a lot last night.
They did. And they got their defense going. We talk about Dak Prescott. He played mistake-free football last night, indeed.
Absolutely.
I think what you saw from Kellen Moore was finally the adjusting offensive coordinator last night. One of the things with Kellen Moore, he would always stay in his game plan. Whatever he had coming in is what he executed. And at times it was out of touch with what was going on in the game. You would look for those certain situations where he made certain changes. He didn't do it. Well, last night he did. He came out, first 3 plays, they threw the football. Came out the next drive, started to establish the running game. But then he realized that how Tampa was playing defense and they were trying to drop and confuse Dak with all the coverage, he let Dak play ball and let Dak control the line of scrimmage. And they had obviously worked on it all week where he saw certain looks and knew what they expect. He was anticipatory last night. He was getting the ball out clean. The pocket after the first couple of series was clean. And whenever he was able to escape, he did damage with his legs. Not only running, but buying time to throw the ball into the end zone. So they came in with the perfect game plan. They made some great adjustments after the first couple of series. And after that, It was just an onslaught because, just like I said, Tampa Bay could not keep up.
Yeah, and we're just kind of sharing our thoughts on the 6 games we had this weekend. We got Phil back on the show. What were some of your takeaways from the games we saw on Wildcard weekend, Philip?
Oh, guys, I apologize for the the computer problems right now. My computer went down right before the show. But, I thought, speaking of the Dallas game, I heard y'all talking about the Dallas game. I just thought that Dallas just out-physical Tampa in the whole game. Tampa just like a team that just didn't have it. They started out with some fire, then after a while that fire died out and it was trouble. I thought Dallas was physical the whole game. They dominated the whole game. Then it was too late when they tried to make that comeback at the end. But I felt like the most physical team won that game, and that's what happened in that game. As far as the other games, they went. I mean, the Giants game. I said that game could go either way. I think you guys picked the Giants. I thought the Giants game, I thought that, the same thing. The most physical team won. The Giants got the run game going. They was able to stop the run on the other side, forced Kirk Cousins to throw some balls down the field, some throws they took advantage of, and they just played a good game of football. And of course, San Francisco, we kind of felt like that game was going to go the way it went, but all the games were good games except for the Tampa-Dallas game, which was, I thought it would be better than it was.
I agree. When I picked that game.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I agree. When I picked that game, thank you, Brett Maher, for missing 4 extra points. because I picked the score of that game to be 31-27 Dallas. I got 31-14 as the final. I didn't expect the defense to be that effective in stopping Tom Brady. I thought Tom Brady would still put up 20-plus points. It didn't happen. But the 31 I hit on the nose thanks to Brett Maher. So I think he shaved those points just for me.
Now, I want to know, how are you the Minnesota Vikings, season on the line, game on the line, and we're not throwing the ball to Justin Jefferson? I mean, this guy had hardly, I think I want to say he had one, maybe two targets at most in the fourth quarter. And I understand that sometimes coverage and defense dictates where the quarterback can go with the ball. But we all saw and remember the Chiefs back when they had Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. And it's the whole effort Tariq's down there somewhere play where he would just throw it deep and hope for the best. When you got a guy that has just had a great season like Jefferson had, I don't care what the defense is doing, double team him or not, I'm going to throw the ball up there and give him a chance. I just don't understand that thought process from Kirk Cousins at all.
Yeah, you just got to find a way. In that situation, you just got to go to your short game, hope he breaks some tackles and go score. Or just throw it up and trust him, trust him to go get it. I just think that in that game, they didn't, like you said, they didn't go to him enough. He's your playmaker. He's the guy that carried you the whole season. And he'll find a way to get open. Like I say, if they double him down the field, maybe throw some screens to him, get the quick game going, go throw some slants to get him going, and make them get off of that, So I just thought maybe they could have did more with him, and I thought that game would have went a different direction if they could have.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you on that one. And I think, too, if I'm Kirk Cousins, I know it's the playoffs and every play is critical. I might even try to force some balls to Justin Jefferson because we've also seen he's an emotional player, just to keep his head in the game, let him know that, hey, I know what you can do for us when you got the football in your hands. I'm at least going to throw it to you a couple of times and keep you in the game so we don't lose you. I'm sure he was super frustrated after that game because I know Vikings fans were. And we haven't talked at all about the Cincinnati game, but go ahead. I know you got a final point you want to bring up there, Jeff.
Yeah, I just – one of the reasons why I believe the Vikings lost, and it's happened all season with some of these games, it's the way they're pursuing this offense, right? When you look at Kirk Cousins, he's highly effective when you have a running game with those two running backs that goes for 125 to 150 a game. And he can play action. He can run the screens. He can do control passing where he doesn't have to make every throw. And this season has been about him making every throw. In that game, they didn't use the running backs nearly enough. When they got blown out by Dallas, they didn't use the running backs nearly enough. And it was a Dallas defense that just gashed by Chicago earlier in the year. So I don't understand what they're doing in Minnesota offensively. And I think one of the reasons why you're making an early exit is not, yes, the defense has its issues, but your offense isn't helping them by going out there and running this offense the way that they're running it. It should be a little more controlled. They should be keeping that defense off the field. You have two stud backs in Cook and Madison who don't get the ball enough. So there's a problem there in offensive philosophy, and it's hurting that team's performance overall.
Yeah, and Jeff, there was a common theme in these games this weekend. The teams that could run the ball, they won. And the teams that couldn't run the ball and that couldn't stop the run, they lost. So basically, the run, you know how run is. Run, it tells you how physical a team is. You set your precedence on the other team, run the ball, and go get it. And I think Tampa ran it like 12 times. You got an old quarterback. You got Tom Brady in the back, old Tom Brady back there. You cannot throw it 100 times a game and expect to win. You got to run the ball. You got to run it more than 12, at least 25. Give me 25 or something, but don't just do it 12 times and expect everything to be open down the field. So after a while, after they knew they wasn't running the ball, they just covered. They just covered the guys, and that's how they won the game.
Yeah, definitely a good point. Definitely a good point.
Yeah.
I have to agree with you. And to your point, Jeff, too, with the Minnesota thing, I think sometimes, and I've seen it many times, we all have, these OCs get into the playoff games and overthink stuff. Play the way they've been playing all season and being successful for whatever reason. Either they go down, they fall behind in the playoff game, or they get ahead, or it's a tight moment, and they overthink situations and go away from their philosophy. And it always ends up being a loss to end. It happens time and time again. You're a running football team, and all of a sudden, let's throw the ball 25, 30 times a game, and we wonder why we lost. I just don't understand why they can't stick with what you got there for.
Yeah, and you could be a victim of your own success As an OC, at times when you're running the football down somebody's throat, you'll have your assistant offensive coordinator, your receivers coach going, "Hey, don't forget about my guys," or you're going out there, you're throwing the ball all over the yard, and sometimes the running backs coach will say, "Hey, we do have a running game." So, sometimes your success can create the point where you're like, "Oh, we're forgetting about something else." But this wasn't even it wasn't even an attempt to establish the running game the way that they should have, and it's been a theme for them all season. So when they've had those blowout losses, the Dallas game, the Philly game, the Green Bay game, all right, even in the Indianapolis game, it was about the passing game. And it's a theme that we saw all season. It's a theme that hurt them in this game here. Because if they ran the ball better, they would have had more big plays to those receivers.
Now, I think in terms of Cincinnati versus Baltimore, I think the Bengals obviously got the win. They got a scare because they didn't play as well offensively as I expected them to play. But I thought I had picked them, thought they were going to win the game anyway. I think for Cincinnati, this is kind of good in two ways. Obviously, it's good one way because your season continues. But I think the second way that this is a good win for them and a good is a wake-up call. Now, okay, we barely got by them in that playoff game. This is the playoffs. Literally every play counts. Now we're going to go up against the big dogs. We really got to take this seriously and level up and go out and play stronger. Because they didn't play their best game, but you got the win.
Yeah. Well, I think it was also a little too comfortable. Right? You just finished the season against these guys. They rested their players. You handled them pretty fairly. Right? So you came in a little too much swagger and not enough focus. If they would have come into that game as focused as they were that last game of the regular season, I think it would have been a different story. But they came in there a little too comfortable. And then think about it. They came within 3 inches of going into overtime in that game because that Hail Mary attempt literally came 3 inches off his fingertips. So they got very lucky this weekend. I'm pretty sure there'll be a little more focus for Buffalo this time around.
Philip?
I agree. I mean, I just thought, teams just got too comfortable, man, and realized it's the playoffs and teams are going to give you their best. You can't come in there and half stepping and rolling your helmet on the field expecting to win. You got to come out there and be ready to play and be ready to go from the jump. You can't get behind in these games because it's hard to catch up. Everybody ain't going to always be able to do that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I just think that, when you prepare during the week and you're getting ready for games, that preparation, however you prepare, you got to be like in that zone where you when you step on that field, you just got to be ready to go. You can't go out there and just say, okay, I got time. You don't have time because the other team is trying to win the game. They're trying to get to the Super Bowl. And right now, it ain't no patty cake or anything like that. Everybody trying to take your head off. So you got to go in these games and be ready to go. You can't go out there and take anything for granted.
Now, we haven't talked about the Buffalo-Miami matchup, but I'm not going to lie. I thought this was going to be a real quick trip to Blowout City. I talked about how the Miami Dolphins just happy to be there, take your free swag. They shut me up quick. I think that I almost want to say if they had Tua, would the outcome have been different? I mean, I don't know. And I also think for Buffalo, if I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, like Jeff just talked about with the Bengals, comfortable, swagger, you might want to watch out there, Buffalo. A lot of turnovers, a lot of issues in the defensive ends of the ball. A team that people thought was going to just have a cakewalk into the Super Bowl got a wake-up call as well. And I wonder if better quarterback play, could Miami have walked away with the victory? Who am I going to start off with? Let's start with you, Philip.
Okay, I think they could have, man. If Tua could have played this game, it would have been a whole different story. Because Buffalo didn't play their best game, you know what I'm saying? I thought that with everything going on with DeMar, that it would motivate them to keep playing hard for him no matter what. And that didn't happen in this game. It's almost like they were drained from all the things that happened to them over the past weeks. Like they came out kind of flat, real flat. And that team, the Miami was able to get in the game, hang with them, and stay with them. So, and that game came out. 3 points. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that game came. It was close at the end. Could have went either way. I just feel like if Miami could have just got a few more stops, then it's their game. But yeah, it didn't look like a typical Buffalo team, especially playing at home against a team that's only on this third quarterback. You know what I'm saying? It just didn't seem like the typical Buffalo team that was come out of the gates and go out and dominate in that dominating fashion of theirs. It just didn't seem like the same team.
What about you, Jeff?
Yeah, I expected it to be a little more in Buffalo's favor the way was, the way things were going. We talked about Skylar Thompson starting, the inexperience in the playoffs with rookie quarterback, and he played admirably.
Absolutely.
I'm quite shocked in how this Buffalo defense allowed him to push the ball down the field on him. I'm quite shocked at how sloppy they were with the football. This was a team that, granted, when they played Miami with Tua up in the snow, it was pretty sharp. They had some miscues, but for the most part, they were pretty sharp. They're coming in off the big win last week, and it seemed like when they went up, they got comfortable. All right, we're up 14, or was it 17? I believe they were up. And then all of a sudden, they allowed Miami to creep back and tie it before the half. That's uncharacteristic. Now, fortunately, they have Cincinnati this week, who's also played a very sloppy first-round game. So neither one of these teams are coming in extremely hot to this matchup where there's going to be a little extra emotion because this is also the matchup where DeMar Hamlin got hurt. So there's going to be a lot revolving around this game besides just playoffs. But I think when you look at what they did this week against Miami, this was a game they needed to put their opponent away. They didn't do it. They played with their food. And right now, almost bit them in the rear end. So this is a chance of, okay, if you're watching the Bills, you got to feel a little worried about their performance going forward in the playoffs because they just showed you against Miami, a team that they should have dominated. They didn't do it. And granted, everybody's going to say it's a division opponent. Yes, division opponents, third time around, it's not an easy thing to do. But when you jump up on somebody 17-0, if you're as good as you say you are, you put them down. We saw that last night. We didn't see that all weekend, right? We saw San Francisco jump up. They allowed Seattle come back, take the lead at the half. They came out in the second half and buried them, all right? We saw the Chargers jump up 27-0. They lost the lead. So there's so many things we saw this weekend with leads and double-digit leads early where teams blew it. They allowed teams to come back. The only team that put somebody away early was Dallas.
I wanted to let that marinate for a while in the air. The comment about Dallas. Now, we're definitely not going to move on before we. You're the truth. The truth, though.
I can't hide it. Everybody else did it.
I want to know if the Dallas kicker walk home, take an Uber. Did he have to fly Spirit Airlines? I'd love to know how the post-game reaction was with him with this performance that he had. That was incredible to watch. Of course, we're not going to finish our wild card conversation without talking about that game, Los Angeles Chargers, Jacksonville Jaguars. I was excited to see the Jags host a home playoff game. They're back in the playoffs. Man, I definitely want to get your thoughts, Philip. Your boy, Doug Peters, man, what a performance. That's a leader right there. To keep your guys in the game, not hang their heads, because these are young guys, not a lot of playoff experience, and then to be down like that so quick, but not to lose faith, to fight back all the way. And then some of the calls that were made at the end of the game, that was just a tremendous football game, a tremendous job of coaching as well.
Yes, it was. Awesome comeback for that team. And, to turn the ball over for 5 times and come back and win that game, that's a Doug Peterson's team, though. Teams never give up. They always feel like they're in it no matter what. They're going to create some stuff to make it happen. There's some awesome play calling going on down the stretch there, even to get the first down on 4th down. That was an awesome call by them. And I just felt like, it just seemed like they felt like once they scored some points, they never felt like they were out of it. They come back and take the lead again. They just had to. You got to think, they hadn't been in the playoffs so long. They didn't know how it felt to be in the playoffs. They thought it was still a regular season game until they got hit in the mouth. And then all of a sudden they bounced back, came out there and started playing the way they should play, and good things happened. So yeah, I'm happy for that team. Everybody loves a Cinderella story, and Cinderella teams, you pull for. And to see how they came back and won that game, it's got to give them some confidence down the road. Now they got the jitters out the way. They got all the jitters out the way.
Yes, sir.
They got to give them some confidence to come into the next game and say, we need to start faster. We need to play better. And let's go get this game from the start and stay in the game. Because you don't get down to everybody like that and expect to win. You can't do that from here on out. It's going to get tougher and tougher as you go through the playoffs. So, but it was good to see them come back. It was good to see them get their composure. It was good to see the coaching staff just stay calm and not panic And that's one thing about it. Coaching staff in that situation, when nothing's going right, you turn the ball over that many times in the first half, you just stay calm. Don't panic. Don't let players see the panic on your face, and they did a good job of that. And so they was able to bounce back and get back in that game and win it.
I can't wait. I've been waiting all day to hear what Jeff Barnes has to say about this game.
Well, this game right there is an indictment on the Chargers. Let's be realistic. All right, the Jacksonville Jaguars played a poor first quarter, came out in the second quarter, late in the second quarter, started to try to establish some momentum, got a touchdown before the half, and then came out ready to play in the second half some nice, clean football. Where were the Los Angeles Chargers in the second half? Okay, we could beat up on the coach all day, but you want to know what? The Golden Boy quarterback scored 3 points in that second half. Yes. Okay, this is the guy that everybody's anointed a top 10 quarterback, right? We evaluated him in the draft, said this guy's a generational talent. Some people said you barely get into the playoffs, so you think, this is my chance to really show out. Yes, you don't have Mike Williams, but you know what? You showed you had Keenan Allen. You showed you had Austin Eckler. You showed you had plenty of guys that could help you put up points in this first half. 3 points in the second half. So if you're going to go out there and try and torch the head coach's house, well, guess what? You better throw the quarterback in that fire too, because guess what? He did nothing for you. If you're going to sit there and say he's not the problem, you got a problem, because your franchise is built on a guy that didn't step up in a game where you needed him to step up. 7 points could have put that game away at a certain point in the fourth quarter. Couldn't do it. Okay? So that is a problem. And it is a problem that you're building your franchise around a guy who hasn't shown you that he can do this consistently. And yes, there's times in the fourth quarter he's won you games. But it was a big moment. He didn't show up. And it's becoming a trend with him. And there's a lot of games he could have shown up with. The Cincinnati game, it's not Cincinnati, the Kansas City game where Kelsey went wild on him. He could have shown up. He didn't. Okay, and the same thing happened the year before. Okay, so we talk about quarterbacks. Had that been Lamar Jackson, had that been Jalen Hurts, had that been Dak Prescott, heaven forbid, right, that blew a 27-point lead, they'd be throwing them kids under a bus, okay? They'd be dragged through the media all week, all off season. Okay, we haven't let Dak and them forget that San Francisco lost last year, right? And that wasn't even a game where their lead was blown. They just underperformed. Here you blew a 27-point lead, a historically bad performance in the second half of a playoff game. And we're not even talking about the guy who's supposed to help score points for you. They scored just 3 points in the second half.
Man, I
definitely agree. Go ahead, Phil.
It was definitely a total team effort to lose that game by the Chargers. Because if you give me 27 points, if our defense get up by 27 points, we got to win that. I'm talking as a defensive guy.
Yes, sir.
We got to find a way to win that. And then the offense, like I say, they put up 27 points. They put up 30 points, right? That's enough for me to win. I only need 14. We got to find a way to win this. I've been playing for Washington. We used to say, our offense is struggling, and we said, just give us 14 points. That's all you got to give us. Give us 14 points, we're going to win. And that's the mentality you got to take on defense. You don't need a whole, just give us some points. We're going to win this. Just give me 2 touchdowns, we're going to win it. But that defense just, they marched up and down the field. They scored when they wanted to. Then the offense stalled out. They only put 3 points up the second half. And then they fired the offensive coordinator. They put up 30 points. What about the defense? Defense gave up a lot. So, they let them come back and get in the game. So it's kind of odd that happened, that they fired the offense coordinator with that situation. I just think sometimes, level heads got to prevail. And if you're going to, in this situation, just keep everybody hey, let's go fight another year, get better. Everybody get better. But I don't think you just can point the finger at one side of that ball and say it's okay. You know what I'm saying? I don't think you can do that.
Oh, no, listen, the offensive coordinator didn't deserve to lose his job. And that to me was the scapegoating. Okay, somebody's got to go.
Absolutely.
And it ain't going to be me. All right?
We're not buying out the head coach.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's exactly what that was. Somebody's got to go, and it ain't going to be me. Sorry, guys. All right. So, listen, I am not sold on the head coach either. I'm not, listen, I evaluate this quarterback. He had a high enough grade for me to be a franchise quarterback. But if we're going to anoint this kid a top 10 talent, he better show up like a top 10 talent in games that matter. He didn't show up in the second half of this game. He didn't make any big throws. He didn't make any plays for him on offense. And to me, yes, if we score 30, my defense should stop him. But, when I see my defense is struggling, I, as an offensive coordinator, would have to step up and help my defense out. None of them did that. None of them did that. And that's the problem that I have.
Jeff, this is one thing I always hated. I hate when a team make the playoffs and they fire the coaches. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You made the playoffs. You got a chance. You had an opportunity.
Yeah.
All you want is a foot in the door. That's all you want. And then I remember all those Belichick teams. I mean, Belichick never blamed his coaches. He just said we got to get better players. We got to get better at coaching them, but we got to get better players. You know what I'm saying? So I don't feel like when you make the playoffs as a team, you should never, ever fire coaches. You know what I'm saying? Well, I got fired. We made the playoffs, so I'm part of that. So I just think that you keep that in place, man. You're doing something right if you're making the playoffs. There's how many teams out there that don't get that chance to get in the playoffs and do something? You just want your foot in the door, get that opportunity, and when you get your foot in the door, anything can happen. Because I remember when we made the playoffs in Philly and won Super Bowl, that first game we played against Atlanta. We probably should have lost that game. The ball hit the DB right in the chest for an interception. Ball pops up, and we catch it for a first down. So anything can happen in those playoffs. All you want is your foot in the door.
Yeah,
I think to Jeff's point too, if I'm Justin Herbert, multiple lessons need to be learned. I mean, the playoff performance, the game against the Raiders last year that could have got you into the playoffs the way you played, the Chiefs game Jeff talked about. I think they need to take as a lesson. And I also think too, a little bit to Jeff's point as well, the media who's anointed this guy as the next big thing and he is a top 5 quarterback. Let's pump the brakes because we got multiple examples of this kid not quite ready for prime time. It's okay that he's not ready. We bashed Daniel Jones for how many seasons? This guy's not it. The Giants shouldn't extend him. Daniel Jones played his ass off this weekend. And I think I told you before we started recording the show, Jeff, I think that Daniel Jones, he shut me up. I owe that kid an apology. And I think we got Justin Herbert. Is he talented? Yes. But I think it's a little bit too much too soon. That's all I'm saying.
And I think what happened with Daniel Jones and the Giants is that they found some receivers that got clicking toward the end of the season. James and those guys, they got going, you know what I'm saying? And so I think that would help their offense more than anything. They already had the running back. Saquon going to do his thing. They just need to find somebody to go out, run good routes, and catch the ball. And they found a couple of receivers that was willing to do that late in the season. So I think that was a good thing for them and this difference in their game.
Now, I'll let you be the master of ceremonies, Jeff. We have a divisional round that's going to start up. So what game do you want to start talking about first as we kind of preview, make our picks? We know you had a great weekend. So me and Phil got to try to see if we can come back this weekend strong.
Yeah. I got to take some chances this week.
There you go.
We'll always start throwing haymakers, right? We're going to go with the big dogs, right? So here we go. Here we go. We're going to start it off with this matchup right here. All right? We're going to start it off with the Giants and Philadelphia, the battle of the NFC East, third time around for these two teams. We know that the Eagles won both matchups. What say you guys? Who takes this one?
Man, I'll start this off. Philly makes me a little nervous just because the way we talked about momentum and going into the playoffs strong. And I understand that Jalen Hurts missed those couple of games with a shoulder injury, but he came back, and you did see the offense have a little bit more spark with him under center. It just makes me nervous. But I think that at the end of the day, I got to go with the Eagles. I think they're going to pull this off. I think that the rest probably only does anything but help them. The wake-up call, seeing what happened with the Vikings and what New York did there. I think that the Eagles' defense with their pass rush and be able to get somebody, the key is going to be stop the run game. You can't let the Giants establish the run and gash you in the running game. If Saquon's running for 6, 7, 8 yards on first down and you're making it second in anything, and what I mean by second in anything is you can run the ball, you can go deep, short pass. That's what the Giants want. You got to stop the run, and you got to hope that the extra time off has only helped Jalen Hurts to get more healthy and kind of get back that rhythm. So I'm going to go Philadelphia.
All right. What about you, Phil?
Jeff, Joe, man, I feel like Tina Marie. I'm out on a limb right now. Man, my heart says everything tells me that Philly's going to win the game. But then I saw the last part of the season. I saw that last game against the Giants backups, and they just kept kicking field goals. And they only scored on like one drive early in the game. And I kept saying to myself, man, if the starters would have played, they probably would have beat them that game. And so I know that Philly's getting a lot of rest, and I know what home field advantage can do for you. I know what rest can do for you, for a team. But there's a lot of teams that went in they went in and had to play all the way through the playoffs and won championships. I remember New York, the Giants, when Strahan was there, they did it. And I'm pretty sure the coach is telling them right now that, Strahan and them, they're a wild card team. They win in one Super Bowl. We can do it too. And the one thing I know about New York is they always play Philly tough, and especially when it means something. And they always play up tough, and they got this run game. They got Saquon Barkley in this run game, and I'm pretty sure they're looking at Washington film right now, and they're looking at some of the teams that beat them toward the end of the season right now, and they're watching that run game and how they can get that going. Because the only way you beat the Eagles is establish the run game, and your quick game, and your screen game. Those are the ways you beat them. And and they got some weapons there that can do that. So and one thing I know about Giants is watching them this last game and watching their young guys play Philly that last game of the season. They were physical. And I always say the most physical team in these playoffs is going to have the best chance to win. I'm thinking Philly going to win this. If it's close, I think the Giants can sneak them. I'm up in the air with this one, but I think Philly's going to win. But to catch up, I'm going to take the Giants.
Ooh.
To catch up with the Jets, catch up with Jeff. I think I'm gonna take.
Okay.
I think this game is going to go. It can go two ways. Either Giants can be physical, keep it close, and maybe win it at the end, or it's going to be a blowout and Philly's just going to take it.
Well, one of my picks last week. One of my picks last week pissed off a super fan. So I'm going to try not to piss off any more super fans this week, right? So this game, you have to look at both of these teams, right? One is hot right now. One was hot for most of the season, kind of cooled off at the end. Right? One of the things when you're in that kind of position where you're running away with things, you want to kind of finish with momentum. And I don't feel like Philadelphia did that. We know the Jalen Hurts injury kind of derailed some of that momentum. The two back-to-back losses hurt that momentum. Him coming back early, and they kind of struggled against the backups of the Giants. See, that's the part that bothers me. The backups of the Giants went out there, not only played well, but competed and almost knocked them off. And it almost looked like it gave them momentum going into last week versus Minnesota. So it looks like the Giants are the team playing with the momentum, and the Eagles are trying to reclaim it. And that's never a good sign when you're going into playoffs. So I think this is going to be a tough matchup. I think both of these teams are going to take some serious lumps this weekend. There's going to be somebody's going to lose some key players this weekend because they're going to be hitting. This is going to be a very physical matchup. These teams are going to try, besides the actual division opponents, they're going to try and knock each other out. The Giants definitely want to take advantage of this run, and the Eagles sure as hell don't want to be the ones that disappoint after the season they had. So I think Philadelphia pulls it out. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be a battle. I think the Giants at times are going to take this lead from them, but I think overall at the end it's going to be a run or a big throw from Hurts at the end that's going to save the day. But it's going to be a battle, and trust me, that shoulder will be tested this week.
Well, and let me say this. I just almost forgot about this. You can't forget about when Doug Peterson was there, when they benched Hurts at halftime. It was the Giants that could have went to the playoffs, and they didn't get in because of that. You better bet they're gonna bring that up this week, and they're gonna be like, okay, that's well, wait, since they knocked us out of the playoffs and didn't want us to get in, it's our time to pay back. That's what's gonna happen. So the Eagles and show them right away who's the boss, because they start slow. If the Eagles start slow, this is gonna be an interesting game. They gotta start fast, and they gotta play like the team they played all year before the last three games. And if they don't do that, it's gonna be a tough game.
So, Philip, lone wolf going with the Giants there, Jeff.
Yeah.
What we got next?
All right. So, we started with the heavy hitter. We'll give you a chance to catch your breath a little bit. We're going to go Kansas City, Jacksonville in this matchup here, AFC foes. I don't think these two really met this season, did they? I don't remember if they did. If they did, it wasn't memorable, obviously.
Yeah, put that way.
Jacksonville off the epic comeback, Kansas City well rested. I don't think anybody trusts the Kansas City defense. I know I don't. Playoff time, they've been a little bit different, but I think if it's not Patrick Mahomes and this offense carrying the day, they're in trouble. I think they have the right team they're facing in the second round. I think it would have been worse for them had they faced the Chargers, a team that knows them very well, that can score with them. I think overall, I'm going to take Kansas City in this one. I think Kansas City pulls it out.
I'm with you.
Everybody knows.
Go
ahead.
Go ahead,
Philip.
Okay.
I'm going to go lone wolf on this.
You can't contain it. Go for it, Joe. Just go for it, Joe. You can't contain it.
I'm done. I said I'm going lone wolf. That's all I got to say. I'm going lone wolf. I'm going Jacksonville. I'm done.
Okay.
How you know who I'm going? How you know who I'm going with?
Go ahead.
you know, though. You know. Because, I would worry about Kansas City. I would worry about Kansas City if they're playing Cincinnati. But they playing Jacksonville. Jacksonville coming off a high first playoff win. I know Doug's going to have them ready to go. But Kansas City has just been there too many times. They're too good of a team in the playoffs. They're playing at home. That crowd noise. I just think KC wins this one. Jacksonville just got to start faster than they did last week. If they start like they did last week in Kansas City, there ain't no coming back. There ain't no coming back from that high-powered offense. So I'm going with Kansas City on this one.
All right. So this is gonna. We got two big matchups to close this one out. So I'm gonna bring this one up because I don't want anybody to say I'm being biased in this one here. We're gonna go right to out west here. We're gonna go. How about these guys? All right. This is a classic matchup. Cowboys traveling out to San Francisco to take on the Niners. Niners, we know they were the hottest team in the NFL, while Dallas coming off the big win Monday night where they broke virtually every playoff curse they have, the blue jersey curse, the road curse, so any other curse we could think of that's associated with that team in the playoffs, they finally broke it on Monday night. So, guys, what do you say about this one?
I'll let Philip go first.
Two good defenses. First of all, two good defenses. It'll be a defensive kind of game. I think it's going to be low score. I don't think it's going to. Usually you say it's low score and it'd be a shootout, but I think it's going to be low scoring. I don't think you can run on San Fran. You can run on Dallas. That's the thing. I think San Fran. That's the advantage. San Fran. Passing wise, advantage Dallas. So, but you got to establish that run game in these playoffs in order to have a chance to win. I feel and stop the run. So I'm thinking that San Francisco being at home, and their defense has been good all year. They got the number one defense in the league, and I remember we was the number one defense in Philly. We won the Super Bowl. I just got to go with San Fran and the defense. I'm always gonna side with the defense when it comes to this. It ain't gonna be the defense they face Tampa. It ain't gonna be Tampa defense. You're not gonna get that again. It's going to be a good defense, sound defense, ready to play at home, hungry, and with the defensive player of the year on the other side. So I think it's going to be a battle with those two ends trying to prove who's the defensive player of the year, but we already know who that is. That's Bosa. So I think San Francisco is going to take this.
Yeah, this is a classic. I'm excited about this. This takes me back to we could just rattle off so many different names. Troy Aikman to Alvin Harper. I think about Terrell Owens. I think about when Deion Sanders, I felt like every season was either on the 49ers or the Cowboys. It's a classic matchup. But I think that the 49ers aren't Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Nick Bosa and those boys are hungry. They're attacking. From the secondary in San Francisco is a lot better. I think the offensive line is a lot better than Tampa Bay's offensive line. I think the one thing the 49ers got to do is start fast. You don't want to fall behind in this game and give Dallas momentum and confidence that they can win another game on the road. I think if I'm Dallas, you got to hope that Dak Prescott can build off of his career performance we saw last night. But I think the Brock Purdy magic continues. I think this kid is just something about this kid. I think you established the run. You got Deebo Samuels. You got to remember this is probably the best opportunity that Christian McCaffrey has had to finally make a run for a Super Bowl, and he's taking advantage of it and making the most of the opportunity. So I think the 49ers march on to the NFC Championship game. It's going to be a good one, though. It's going to be hard-hitting.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be a great game, and I'm really intrigued because what San Francisco does, it's so different from Tampa was mostly, it's about Tom in the pocket, being able to throw the ball quick, throw the ball on time, in rhythm, utilizing some of that running game, utilizing the screen game. Well, San Francisco is about blunt force trauma in the running game, but also whether it's Purdy, whether it's Garoppolo, whether it's any of those guys, the passing game is a lot of smoke and mirrors. They're going to hit you with screen. They're going to hit you with jet sweep. They're going to hit you with a lot of play action, that long bootleg that they like to run, the naked boots with the waggles. They're going to hit you with a lot of smoke and mirrors. This Dallas defense likes to play fast. Right? With fast defenses, they tend to over pursue. So the misdirections, the stuff that Shanahan likes to do is how they caught him last year. Okay, then you look at the playmakers. Well, if they struggled to stop Debo last year and Ayuk, now and Kittle, now you got Debo, Ayuk, and Kittle along with Christian McCaffrey. So I think the one big threat is they don't have a running quarterback back there, Purdy, that's going to hurt him with his legs, which is something that fits what Dallas's defense is good at. However, the misdirection is going to be a problem. I think this game is going to be a higher scoring game than we saw Monday night. I think San Francisco's defense is going to have issues at times because I think Dallas, if they can block that front four, they can take advantage of the secondary. One thing we don't say is how great the 49ers secondary is because that front seven is so devastating. If they could block that front seven, I believe they'll have the ability to attack that secondary. San Francisco hasn't been tested in a while. Seattle was the best test they faced in a while. Before that, they finished with Arizona and a few other teams who were really underwhelming. So I think there's going to be a matchup where if Dallas can not let this guy a hand and not struggle out the gate, if they can have this game go into the fourth quarter as a jab in a puncher's game, they have a chance to pull this out. Right now, I'm going to go with the 49ers. I think it's going to be a tight game. I'll go with San Francisco 34-30.
And one thing I want to say, too, about the Cowboys, I've been screaming, the Cowboys games I have watched, I've been screaming this. Could we get Tony Pollard the ball more? This is a what have you done for me lately league. And this is like this honorary thing they got going on with Zeke Elliott. He's the starter. We're going to give Zeke his carries. He hasn't been that Zeke in years. This kid Pollard got to waggle. He's got speed. You can line him up at slot. You can give him the ball in the screen game. If I'm Dallas, he needs to get a lot of touches. And Zeke Elliott's the past. Tony Pollard's the future. And every game I watch with Dallas, I just don't understand why he doesn't get more opportunities. This is the playoffs. It's win or go home.
Yeah, and I think what they do is they feel him out, right? You look at last game, he got more. I think they got even, if not, he got a few more carries than Zeke. And it's because of the style of defense Tampa was playing. They were crowding the line of scrimmage, those big bodies inside, so you weren't going to be able to really grind it up inside. It was going to be more of an off-tackle, outside running game. Not really the strong point for Zeke right now. But what you saw was when they needed Zeke to get those grinded out yards inside and tenderize the inside so Pollard can come in and work those outside runs, they were able to do that. They work well in tandem. I'm still not sold on it. We've seen it the last 2 years. We got to the end of the season. Tony Pollard's missed games with injuries. So you're always going to need a tandem back with Tony Pollard. If you feel Zeke's past his time, you better have somebody in the wings to replace him because you can't use him a whole season on his own. He's going to break down. He's already started to in the past 2 seasons.
Yeah, I think this game comes down to the trenches. And when you look at both sides of the ball, you look at San Fran and Dallas, I would have to go advantage San Fran on both sides of the ball, their D-line and their offensive line. And I think that's going to be the difference in the game. And if they come out, that line on both sides of San Francisco come out and play, I think they're going to get this game easily. I think they're going to win it. So I ain't going to say easily, but they should win it because trenches matter. Whoever play best down on each side of that ball in those trenches is going to get this victory.
So all 3 of us are going San Francisco. Okay.
All right. So we've had the part of the entree. Here comes the course number 2. Okay. So this is the big matchup, the repeat matchup from a few weeks ago. We know how it didn't really end. It was kind of abruptly ended by the freak injury of Damar Hamlin. So we get to replay this in the playoffs. So we're starting to talk about Buffalo, Cincinnati. How about this matchup, guys?
It's going to be explosive. It's going to be explosive. A lot of offense. Whew. scoreboard guy gonna be busy. I
I mean,
can guarantee that much.
Buffalo scared me this last game against Miami. And knowing what Cincinnati did last year and what they did to Kansas City this year and some of the games they played, uh, and then thinking that Cincinnati defense ain't a slouch, Buffalo defense ain't either. It's gonna be a good game, guys. It's gonna be a good game. I'm hoping that Buffalo fix some of the issues they had last week against Miami. Because usually when you play a game like that and somebody that you think you should like just handle them easily and you don't, you go back and fix a lot of the issues that you ran into and you play a lot better the next week. So I'm gonna go with Buffalo to end Cincinnati's season, but it's gonna be tough for Joe Burrow, man. Those receivers, man, they're gonna be flying around trying to make some plays. But I'm gonna go with Buffalo in this one to win it.
What's the weather report so far?
I actually haven't seen the weather, but this is one time I don't think the weather favors either team. They're both cold weather teams, right? So if it's a cold day, neither one of these teams are going to be fazed by it. I mean, being in Cincinnati in this time of year is not exactly like being in Miami. So, I think the weather is not going to be as big a factor. I think it comes down to which team executes at the line of scrimmage. We know about the injuries on Cincinnati's offensive line. It's gotten a little bit worse this week with Volson getting hurt. So
yeah,
that's a big issue. Ed Oliver 8 last week versus Miami. So they have the ability to wreak havoc on the inside of the pocket, which is something that Joe Burrow does not like. No quarterback likes getting pressure immediately up the middle. So I think that's one of the things we're going to look at is which team is executing better at the line of scrimmage. Then we saw Hendrickson play last week. Teams ran the ball right. The Ravens ran the ball right at them the whole time. So I think what you're seeing now is teams, the weaknesses, the warts are showing. How can you cover them up? The injuries that you have, how can you overcome them? And it's going to be hard pressed. I think Cincinnati's going to be hard pressed. They can pull this off. If anybody has the weapons to go into Buffalo and win this time of year, it's Cincinnati. So Buffalo's on notice too. Neither one of these teams were impressive in Wildcard weekend. And overall, I think this is going to be the matchup where Buffalo's on notice. If Cincinnati comes to play, if they're able to protect Burrow and he's able to make plays, this is a good bet for Cincinnati to take this game. I think it's going to be a little emotional for both teams because, like I said, this is the game that a few weeks ago where Hamlin got hurt on Monday night. So it's going to bring all that back to the surface. I think that may be that one little emotional edge that gives Buffalo a chance to pull this one off. But I'm telling you right now, I would not be surprised if Cincinnati walks out with the victory.
I think this is a Joe Mixon game. I mean, you've got to use Joe Mixon to combat that Buffalo Bills pass rush. The running game has got to be effective for Cincinnati. If you could run the ball, get Mixon to start getting those 5-6 yards runs on first downs so it's third down and manageable, I think Joe Burrow can figure it out. I mean, as many times as he got pressure, this is the same kid that was sacked 10, 11 times against Tennessee last year. He has a playoff experience and pedigree, having just been in the Super Bowl. I think the running game is the key. If the Bengals can establish the run and then make it where it's not third and long all the time and they're just pinning their ears back and attacking Joe Burrow, there's enough playmakers on that side of the ball for Cincinnati to make it happen. And then their defense is going to have to make a play here or there. And then if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, I would hope that the Josh Allen turnover bug is gone from the interceptions, being loosey-goosey with the ball and fumbles in key situations. You got to hope that's all been out of his system. He's locked in and focused. Because like we talked about, both these teams had mistakes and didn't put their best foot forward last week, but still ended up leaving with the dub. So I'm going to go with Cincinnati. I'm a big Joe Burrow fan. I think he figures it out. If the Bengals running game isn't working, I think he can get ugly for Cincinnati.
I mean, if I pick in Buffalo, if Cincinnati pulls it off, I won't be surprised. I made a prediction last year during the Super Bowl preview show, that I didn't believe that Cincinnati would be back with this coach. Right now, they're still playing at lights out football. He knows how to get this team motivated. I give him that much. I don't think overall strategy-wise he's a great coach. I think he still makes certain game management decisions that make you scratch your head, but they overcome it. So what can you say? Look where they are. So yeah, I think overall This is going to be a big matchup for these guys.
Yeah, and two quarterbacks that have been in these big moments that have proven that they're up for the big moments. I mean, you gotta think Josh Allen's hungry, man. He's been so close to the mountaintop a couple times, and Joe Burrow wants to get back to prove to people last year wasn't a fluke. This is going to be this closely followed by the 49ers Cowboys game are probably going to be the game of the weekend.
Oh, yeah. I don't think any one of these games – I think the only one that has a chance of getting out of hand is the Kansas City game. It's because if Kansas City pours it on early, there won't be any let up in Kansas City's offense, okay? Their quarterback will show up in the second half, okay? So I'm not worried about if they pull away. They may allow them to score because I don't have any faith in Kansas City's defense, but I do think that they can continue to score, all right, unlike their counterparts in Los Angeles. The rest of these games are not going to be for the faint of heart. There's going to be some contact. There's going to be a lot of bully ball going on at the line of scrimmage. There's going to be some nastiness. If you thought the chippiness at the line of scrimmage with Jensen and Parsons was a little rough, wait till you see what happens this week when New York and Philadelphia, two teams that don't like each other, get together for a third time. Just wait till you see Dallas and San Francisco, where Dallas wants to avenge what San Francisco did to them last year. Okay, just think about the game we just talked about, where their comrade at arms was literally on the floor fighting for his life. Okay, so this is going to be three hard-hitting, knock-em, rock-em, sock-em robots type games where nobody's going to back off. It's going to be standing in front of each other, hitting each other with everything they got. This is going to be, in the words of Jimmy Johnson, a gorilla hitting them with everything he's got. All right, so that's basically what you're going to see this week. All right, those three matchups are going to be the ones you're going to look at and go, ooh, I'm not moving from this couch. Order the wings and have them bring it here. I'm not leaving.
That's like a direct quote from the Book of Joe. Order the rings and have them bring it here. That's like a direct quote, chapter 1, verse 2 of the Book of Joe.
You can get your microphone and do the Wolf of Wall Street. I'm not leaving because you won't be leaving the couch for them 3 games.
Agreed. You are watching The Perspective. Joe Cardoza, Philip Daniels, and Jeff Barnes. Take a real quick break. When we come back, it is our freestyle session. We just talk about different topics we have on our mind in the NFL. Keep it locked.
In 2006, we founded Yeti Coolers with a simple mission: build the cooler we use every day if it existed. One that was built for the serious outdoor enthusiasts rather than for mass discount retailers. One that could take the abuse we knew we'd put it through, out in the field and on the water. One that simply wouldn't break. We decided early on that production innovation would come from necessity and first-hand experience, not from market research and data analysis. Today, Yeti products perform when it matters most. Whether that be an excursion into the remote Alaskan wilderness, chasing redfish on the Gulf Coast, or just getting together with friends in the backyard, we make gear that helps you stay out longer, travel farther, and live harder. # built for the wild.
And welcome back to The Perspective. Philip Daniels, Jeff Barnes, and Joe Cardoza here. Just had a great conversation talking about the Wildcard weekend and making our picks for the divisional round. Now is one of my favorite segments of the show. It's our freestyle session where we just kind of talk about news and notes around the league, some topics that have been on top of mind for us. I'll let you start that off with, Philip. What do you got this week as far as NFL, maybe even college related, that you want to talk about?
Before I go into my freestyle, I want to send my condolences out to Devin Willock and Chandler Lecrae's family, my whole UGA family. Of course, you guys know that we had a player and a faculty member, somebody that was on the staff, lost their life this past Sunday. I think it was Sunday, and in a car accident, and just lost control of the vehicle. But I want to send my condolences out to their families and just keep them in your prayers and pray for them and everything. Hopefully, everything just works out and they can find peace in this time of grief. And my freestyle I want to talk about, it happened again this week, guys. So we just got to talk about this because it's getting ridiculous. I want to talk about the hits on the quarterback that's getting penalized for swinging quarterbacks down to the ground. Dexter Lawrence was the victim this time. Hit the quarterback, grabbed him, spun him around, threw him down, got up, went back toward the line of scrimmage. There was nothing malicious about the hit. There was nothing that that I saw that should have drew a penalty. Even when he came down with his arm and grazed his face mask, he really didn't hit him in the head. He just came down, grabbing his body, and then something right. It happened several times throughout the year. So what I'm thinking that the NFL has got to go and reevaluate this and just say that anytime that you get a quarterback by the waist or anything and you swing him around, it's not a penalty because you're calling it too many times when it's not. At first, it was all about keeping the guy's body off the quarterback. And guys trying to do that, trying to do their best to keep their butt off the quarterback. Even that sometimes get called the wrong way. And then it was all about trying to get a sack and roll over and just keep that weight off of them. And some guys get hurt doing that. So my thing is, I just think the referees got too much on their plate to worry about right now. And they got so much they got to worry about during the course of a game. And they got to think, is this a penalty or is it not a penalty? Let's simplify. Whenever you get a quarterback by the waist, you swing him around and throw him down. As long as you ain't falling on top of him, it's not a penalty. These guys got pads on. They got helmets on. They protected. You know what I'm saying? Back in my day, you didn't protect the quarterbacks. We fell on them. We did whatever we wanted to them. They are protected enough. It's time to stop throwing flags for guys who get swung around and thrown to the ground, and it's just ridiculous. So I just wanted to address that, man. I saw it happen during the Giants game, and it could have cost them a playoff game. And we gotta get to we got to find another solution, man. We got to find another solution. And the only solution is if they don't fall on with all their body weight, let that be enough. If they don't, slap them in the head, like back in the day, the head slaps and stuff. Let the protection be enough with the pads and the helmet. And I don't think, like, even you reaching for the ball, you hitting the quarterback in the helmet, I don't think that should be a flag. You wear a helmet for a reason. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that's going to hurt a quarterback. You can tell a difference between reaching for a ball, accidentally hitting the quarterback in the head with a hand, and actually slapping him in the face or hitting him just because you want to. You can tell the difference, you know what I'm saying? So I just think I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the head, taking away the hands to the head. I'm okay with that. I'm just not okay with them swinging the quarterbacks around and throwing them down, and they're throwing flags for that situation. It's going to cost teams games. It almost cost Giants game this week. We got to get to a solution on that, and the refs can't have too much on their plate, and they got to stop calling that penalty.
I would agree. I know Jeff agrees with that as a former player.
I wholeheartedly agree, except for the fact that I don't believe the refs know the difference. That's the problem.
That's the problem.
They don't know football. They don't know football. It comes up with roughing the passer. It comes up with holding. It comes up with pass interference. I mean, there's so many penalties they get wrong. But the roughing the passer thing is out of control. They have absolutely no idea what they're calling. And as always, they hide behind a rule and blame the rules committee. You're trying to legislate violence out of a game that's inherently violent. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
I'll say this. If the players out there acting crazy like Bosa did this weekend, throw his helmet, throw that flag. Those kind of flags we need. But here's one flag. Here's one flag thrown on Bosa I thought shouldn't have happened. Bosa walked by the referee. He said something. The referee did not hear what he said exactly. The referee chased him down to give him a flag after he said something else. So why you gonna chase the man down to throw a flag on him, man? Leave the man alone. If you walk by you didn't understand what he said. You might have thought he said something crazy. Just let it go because you didn't hear it. So, but don't go chase him down. Just throw the flag on him. Don't do that. So the man's already frustrated. You see? Yeah, exactly. So I just feel like we got enough flags on the field as is to be worried about a quarterback getting swung around, thrown on the ground.
No,
that referee reminded me of when I used to officiate, and I'm not impartial. So I guarantee you he was waiting for him to say it so he could throw it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it was. And that's exactly why I don't officiate games. I am not an impartial person. And that's exactly, I saw it in the dude's face. He walked over like, yeah, say it again. Okay, he wanted him to say it. That's why.
Yeah, exactly, man. Chase that man down, man. Chase him down to throw the flag, man.
I never saw that before. I'd never seen that before until I saw him chase him. I'd never seen that as much as I watched football. I was like, what's going on right now? Yeah, that was whack. That was whack.
Yeah.
What do you got for us this week, Jeff?
He had to say something malicious for that to happen, though. I mean, from the running
for sure.
But you didn't hear it, though. But you didn't hear it.
All right, listen, as a coach, I've had it happen where I've yelled at a ref, and he told me I didn't have the vantage point of the hold. And I go, really? I said, well, listen, you got to start getting these right. You're getting paid more than me. And he warned me at that point. He goes, you better stop, coach. You're real close. All right. And I thought about it real hard, too, because I was ready to get that flag. And I stopped myself. Bosa could have stopped himself.
The best part is when he threw his helmet and Coach Staley grabs it, tries to hand to it real quick.
Yeah. But that shows you who's in charge, right? See, most of the time you throw your helmet, the coach gives you a look and goes, pick that up. The coach never runs over there and hands it to you. All right. So that goes back to the coach. But my message is going to be a little different this week. It doesn't, believe it or not, it does involve a player. And it involves a team in general. And it's a high-profile player. But this situation is not new to this organization, but it's being handled totally differently from the last time it happened. So my message is for General Manager Brian Gutekunst of Green Bay. What are you doing? Okay? This whole Aaron Rodgers situation is your own doing. Okay? In 2008, Ted Thompson, who was the GM, had this same situation with Brett Favre. For 3 straight years, Brett Favre pulled that, I don't know, I'm done, and then come back 3 months later talking about I'm ready to go, give me the football. Okay? Aaron Rodgers has now done this to you 2 years in a row. This is going to be year number 3. You drafted this kid in the first round. He did show signs of improvement this year when you played him. This team isn't getting any younger. Okay, it's a young team. Aaron's obviously proven that he's going to take the time and not do the stuff that he needs to do this offseason. He's going to obviously take time and do limited reps in training camp. It's time to cut bait. And I'm not saying that because I don't like Aaron Rodgers. I'm saying that as somebody who has coached veteran teams, when I have veterans that are half checked out, it's time to go. Because I can't have you having the young guys going, okay, is it my turn? It's my turn. And as soon as that young guy I've gotten ready is ready to go, I'm throwing a veteran back in front of him because he's like, oh, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to do what I do. No. If your head coach isn't going to make the stand, you as the GM make the stand because you're in charge of personnel just as much as the head coach. So if you have this multi-million-dollar quarterback and you feel that you can still get something for him on the open market, if he can still help your team with draft picks, if I believe that this young player can still contribute with those 2 running backs and that young group of wide receivers, I'm going to get him ready to go. I'm going to get me somebody else. I'm going to be a veteran backup that can come in if this kid struggles and help save my season. But I'm not going to be held hostage by Aaron Rodgers another year. He's done this twice. Shame on you if you do this a 3rd season in a row. You want to take time? Take as much time as you want. We're getting ready without you. Because I'm not the reason why you missed the playoffs, because he took his time last year. Okay? Because he didn't work with those young guys, it took him 10 games to get their timing down. You could have done that in the offseason. You could have done that in training camp, in preseason games where you got live reps. He chose not to. You let it happen. Well, if you let it happen again, you deserve what happens to you.
Well said. I have to tend to agree with that. I think for me this week, I want to talk about the Seattle Seahawks. Yeah, I know they lost to the San Francisco 49ers, but I want to talk about Geno Smith. This is a guy that was semi-journeyman, if you think about his career, first-round draft pick with the Jets. If I'm the Seattle Seahawks, I think you got a good thing. Don't screw it up. You need to sign Geno Smith to an extension. Nothing crazy, maybe 2 or 3 years. If Drew Lock is not your guy, then this year in the draft, not with your first pick in the first round, but one of your picks, get yourself a quarterback and use Geno Smith as a bridge, because I think you have a chance to really get back to where you want to be rather quickly. You got a lot of young, hungry players in that defense that are only going to get better. Same thing on the offensive side of the ball. Walker, great young running back. That offensive line played a lot better than people expected them to. And you got to look at it from Geno Smith's perspective. You went from journeyman to, man, I'm going to have to go up against this kid, Drew Lock, to see who's going to be the starting quarterback. You won the competition. You had a hell of a season, and you made the playoffs. Common sense would make you think that Geno Smith's going to work harder than he ever has this offseason to show everybody it wasn't a fluke and to also elevate his level of play. So if I'm the Seattle Seahawks, don't overthink this. Give this guy a 2-3 year extension. Also think about, hey, we're going to have to draft somebody as a young player to play quarterback for us. But this is a layup to me if I'm the Seattle Seahawks, and just don't screw it up. Don't try to outthink this thing and we're going to give him a 1-year deal and jerk him around. He earned his keep. He showed you what he can do for you guys when he's under center. Give him the extension. Get yourself a young guy. They're really, really close to being one of the better teams in the NFL. They are already, but you can be even better. So just keep the continuity.
Yeah, I agree, man. Pay the man. Got your bridge quarterback. Get your young quarterback in there. Let him learn for you. You don't have to rush him out if you got Geno there. And build. There's nothing wrong with that. I hate the people say if you draft a guy in the top 10, you got to throw him out there. No, you don't. You do what's best for that pick, right? What's going to get you the most out of that player, if it means sitting a year. Nobody complains about Pat Mahomes sitting a year, did they, right? And so why are we complaining about guys getting drafted top 10 and sitting? It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah,
take the best available.
Yep.
Take the best available. Take the best available, no matter what position. Let it work out for you. You know what I'm saying? I think sometimes you get to reaching for guys and it never works out. So I mean, like I'm with you on that. Just you got some good pieces in place. Geno was way better than people thought he was going to be. He came back and he led that team to the playoffs, and he's going to only get better next year. You got to realize he hadn't played football all those years. They were sitting out there waiting to get another chance. So now he's getting the off season, knowing that he's the guy, and carry that team of the way. And then like I said, get your quarterback. Maybe if you're going to get one late first, second, do that. But at the same time, just go ahead and just roll with this guy and just fill in the pieces with the best available guys in the draft.
Yeah, I think
he's only going to get better.
Yeah, I think Geno with the Jets didn't work out for a similar reason that Jameis didn't work out with the Bucs. Personality, they were young, so they had that abrasive, I know so much personality. They both outgrown that at this point in their careers. And two, they were both in bad situations. So he's in a better situation than he was with the Jets. Jameis is in a better situation in New Orleans than he was in Tampa at the time. I think both of those guys have grown enough. They'll get opportunities. I think Geno's got his opportunity in Seattle. I hope they allow him to keep it until they are ready to move on from him, when they have the right young quarterback, not just any young quarterback. And I hope that New Orleans gives, Jameis his second chance that he deserves. Because there's no way in hell you're going to win anything with Andy Dalton. They're really playing with fire if they keep playing with that.
That's a whole show on the collapse of New Orleans. I know the team that has. I mean, you think about there's so many talented players, but it just doesn't mesh well. And I think Dennis Allen is the head coach. I don't know about that one. That team's a mess.
Yeah, well, they tried to keep continuity, and I think overall that may have been a mistake. You were better off probably bringing in a guy. If you weren't going to keep Allen as a DC and bring in a real head coach, then you're better off bringing a guy who's a quality DC that could understand how to use a scheme that's in place, tweak it to what you want, and slowly develop it into the scheme you want, as opposed to broad washing everything away and starting all over again. There's just too many veterans there, too many contracts to just throw it all away. You could easily have done a kind of, I'm going to work with this system until I'm ready to move on for it, and I've drafted enough guys to replace people. So I think the way they did it in New Orleans was really, really unorganized, to be honest with you. It was just, okay, we're just going to promote you, keep everything in-house. And the guy's he's not exactly the greatest head coach. He's a solid coach. I'm not going to say he's a bad coach. He's a solid coach. But not every good coordinator is a good head coach. And he's proven that already.
Yeah, plenty of examples of people that were great coordinators. That's what their role was, which is fine. Everybody's got something.
I love North Turner, but he's not exactly the greatest head coach. He's a solid head coach. Not great. Wade Phillips, excellent coordinator, solid head coach. Those guys. Some guys just are not great head coaches. There's nothing wrong with it.
I got a question for you guys. What do you guys think Brady gonna be next year if he plays?
My gut tells me Vegas.
Mine say Vegas too.
Yeah, it's because you have the familiarity with the offensive coordinator. You have a wide receiver, a tight end, stuff that he likes already in place. I don't know if he'll have the same running back. I think they'll throw a couple of people out there. I think that kid's ready. You didn't give him his deals. I think he's going to take the money and run. But he has a slot receiver. He has this tight end. He has the outside wide receiver that he likes. I think all the pieces fit for him to go there. He may not have the line that he needs, but he has enough weapons to get the ball out quickly. And that's one because honestly, his line in New England wasn't that great, right? It was just the fact that out of the scheme where he was able to get the ball out quickly, they had to design stuff to throw so quick where he didn't have to hold the ball, made it so easy for him to operate. It was just, okay, I know where I'm going. And with 2.5 seconds, the ball is gone. Your pass rush has no time to get to him. There was when you slowed that operation down and he had to hold the footballs when he ran into problems. So he's going back to that guy. I think that's going to be the thing that saves his job, because if he has to go with any other quarterback, he's going to be out of that. He's going to be out of Vegas in 2 years.
I just don't know.
What about?
I don't know about Vegas,
Rodgers?
man. The division's so hard. I know time's not one to avoid competition, but the AFC West is a dog fight.
Hey, what y'all think about Aaron Rodgers reuniting with his receiver over there, Devontae?
I don't think they're letting him out of Green Bay. I don't think they're letting him out of. That's the stupid part. I don't think they're letting him out of Green Bay. I think he's going to. I think that they are going to be forced with an ultimatum this offseason, because Jordan Love's agents already said, I want out of here if I'm not starting next year. Mm-hmm. And Aaron is doing the waffle thing. Okay, and Aaron's going to waffle. He's already gotten away with it for 2 years. Why not push the envelope for 3, right? So he's not going anywhere. There's too much money on that new contract, right? For them to just cut bait and let him go, right? And honestly, it's easier for them to trade Jordan Love than it is, for them to do anything else with Aaron Rodgers. Right. Even if you trade Rodgers, you still got to eat. You got to eat a lot of money. All right, so.
Yep.
I think he's going to be right where he is in Green Bay. He's going to be running the show. And whenever things go the way they go, he's going to do what he did this year.
Kind of remind you of Garoppolo when he was in New England. He sat behind so long that they just traded him away,
Yeah. Yeah, but this is Favre 2.0, because this was Favre's playbook at the end of his career. All right, I'm done. I'm good. All right, and I disappear till May and June, and then I come back, and everybody welcomes me with open arms. He's doing the same thing to him, and he realizes this GM, unlike the last one, is going to take it. So if you're going to take it up the tailpipe, this guy's going to keep giving it to you. So that's why I said what I said, because it's like you see it. It's like, how do you replay the same movie and not get caught and go, wait a minute, we're not doing this again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Seems to be fine.
I agree.
He paid the man. That's even what makes it worse than Favre. He paid this dude already. So you made it real hard to move him right now.
I think Rodgers to Vegas would be intriguing. It'd be intriguing. It's going to be interesting offseason for sure.
Yeah. It would be, but honestly, if you're Devontae, do you want to see this dude again? You left Green Bay because he's pulling this nonsense, But then I look at his best years came with this dude too. So it's kind of like I don't know. It's catch-22.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, either way,
I was productive with him, but then I got to deal with this nonsense every year. Do I really want to deal with this again? Yeah, because this is what's going to happen every year.
With the new GM in Arizona, I want to see if DeAndre Hopkins, I don't think, plays for the Cardinals next year. I think he gets moved. That's a top, but forget about the suspension, one of the top receivers in the league. So finding out where he goes will be interesting as well.
It'll be real interesting because he comes from the organization that traded away their number one wide receiver on draft day for a rookie. So does he believe in that same kind of thinking? And he'll do that. He'll do it. If he doesn't, he thought that was a mistake. If he was in the minority of that room that thought that was a mistake, I'll see him trying to work it out. But if he's along the lines of the GM in Tennessee that said, we don't need you, A.J. Brown, we're going to draft Treylon Burks and have the same success, good luck.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Well, man, great show as always, guys. We want to thank everybody for tuning in to The Perspective. Numbers keep going up week after week, so we appreciate that. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. As the playoff march continues, we'll definitely be bringing the action to you, and we'll come back and keep track of our picks, see if me and Phil can get back in the race here and Jeff doesn't run away with it.
I don't think I will this week. I think it'll even out.
Starting to regret
like you
my
said.
Philly pick already, my Giants pick already.
Wait a minute, we're not off the air yet. You can change.
I'll stay with it. I just feel like, well, I'll stay with it. I got to.
You have a 25% chance of getting it right.
There you go. Philip Daniels, Jeff Barnes. I'm Joe Cardozo. You've been watching The Perspective on Team MBS Media, and we will catch you guys next week.